Hello everyone, I am Jack from Cultaholic and we are about to talk about what happened at NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver Night 1. There were a lot of questions heading into night 1 of the show, such as would we get a new NXT Women's Champion, would Ciampa and Walter steal the show, and who would go on to face Johnny Gargano on night 2 for the North American Championship, and all of those questions would be answered over the course of a few excellent hours. But just how good was the show and what exactly happened? Well, there's only one way to find out, because we're about to talk about what happened at NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver Night 1. Just the one pre-show match to talk about as Zoey Stark takes on Toni Storm, and this is a good match for a pre-show match. Some big kickouts down the stretch, and ultimately Zoey Stark picks up the win with a nice inside cradle. Clearly, NXT are still interested in pushing her going forwards. We kick off the show properly with Nita Strauss performing the Star Spangled Banner on her guitar. Check out her recent Desert Island Graps episode with Tom Campbell on our audio feed. But now, on to the first match of the night properly, Pete Dunne versus Kushida to prove who the superior technical wrestler is. Dunne sets the tone straight away with an immediate armbar attempt, but Kushida fights him off. Then Pete Dunne catches him mid-handspring and hits a big X-Plex on the apron. Dunne is in control early on, but Kushida fights back. Both men are going for each other's arms at every opportunity, and Dunne snaps the fingers on Kushida's left hand, but Kushida then gets a near fall with his Back to the Future small package driver. They trade cross arm breaker attempts, but both men wriggle out of each other's submissions, so Kushida gets his signature hoverboard lock locked in, but Pete Dunne escapes to the ropes. But Kushida's not finished. He then puts on an arm breaker of his own, and again, Dunne has to stretch and reach the ropes with his foot. Kushida again gets the hoverboard lock, but Dunne falls forwards into a pinning predicament, forcing Kushida to kick out and release the hold. Then he goes for a big right hand, but Pete catches it and breaks the fingers on Kushida's right hand, and that means that when Kushida next lands that big right hand strike, he is hurt badly. Pete Dunne takes advantage, big stomp to the fingers, big kick to the head, and the bitter end, and Pete Dunne picks up the win in the opening bout. I thought this was a great opening match. It wasn't too technical, it was a nice all-round match. There was a mix of excellent technical stuff, but also a bit of brawling, some strike exchanges, one or two spots off the top rope as well, and I just thought it was a wonderful start to the show. Next up, we have the 6-man Gauntlet Eliminator match to determine who will face Johnny Gargano on night 2 for the North American Championship. Leon Ruff is the first man out, of course, as determined by the order of elimination in the Battle Royal last week, but he crawls onto the ramp. He's been attacked backstage, and the culprit is revealed to be entrant number 2, Isaiah Swerve Scott. The pair brawl on the outside, with Ruff doing a bit of parkour to turn the tide before getting in the ring and officially starting the match. Next up, we have entrant number 3, Bronson Reed, and I guess this is more of a kind of Rumble-style staggered elimination gauntlet rather than a traditional one we might see on the main roster where it's just a series of matches until each mini-match finishes. As Bronson makes his entrance, Leon Ruff dives onto him from the top rope, and Reed just catches him and throws him back inside the ring. Bronson continues to dominate both opponents for a while, but here comes entrant number 4, Cameron Grimes, and he pulls out a wad of dollar bills, y'all, from his trunks, shares them with Isaiah Swerve Scott. He kind of accepts them as payment, and it looks like they're going to work together. Next up, we have Dexter Lumis, who makes his creepy entrance, while back in the ring, Isaiah Scott eliminates Leon Ruff, and we're down to 5 men, but one is yet to enter. And that final entrant comes along next. It's LA Knight, of course, who cuts a promo on pretty much everybody else in the match on his way down to the ring until Bronson Reed grabs him and throws him in for some punishment. Meanwhile, Dexter Lumis locks in the silence on Cameron Grimes, but LA Knight rolls up Dexter Lumis mid-submission and pins him, and many people's favourite to win this match is out second. The other 3 remaining guys hit big moves on LA Knight in sequence to eliminate him from the match, and on the outside, Dexter Lumis gets a measure of revenge, locking in the silence and causing LA Knight to pass out. We get a bit of an intense battle between the final 3 entrants now, Scott, Grimes, and Lee, of course, but it's Cameron Grimes who gets eliminated first by the man he paid for his alliance. It's Isaiah Scott rolling him up with a handful of tights and leaving us with a final 2. Scott really takes control at this point. He slams Bronson Reed from the middle rope onto the apron and hits a huge 450 splash, but it's only good enough for 2. He then hits 3 house call kicks, and again Bronson Reed kicks out, and at this point Isaiah Scott cannot believe it. Reed fires up like any good babyface should, hitting several huge moves on Isaiah Scott, and he heads up top, hits the tsunami splash, and that's enough for the 3 count and the win. Reed celebrates. He'll be facing Johnny Gargano for that North American Championship on night 2, and Gargano himself comes out to talk a little bit of trash from the ramp as Reed celebrates in the ring. Next up, we get a lot of people's most anticipated match of maybe the entire week. Walter defending the UK Championship against Tommaso Ciampa. And Ciampa is back with the shaved head and the trunks. He looks ready for business tonight. A lot of questions about, oh, is his heart still in the wrestling and the punishment and everything? Looks like it is. Ciampa starts this match off really hot, avoiding all of Walter's strikes and hitting some huge slaps of his own, but Walter finally lands one of his big chops and Ciampa goes down hard. They head to the outside. Walter misses a chop against the announce table and his hand goes clean through the top of the announce table, and at this point Wade Barrett absolutely cracks me up, saying things like, "He's broken our desk, there's splinters everywhere." He's really selling it well. So Ciampa quite sensibly starts to attack the hand and also utilizes the very unique strategy of hitting a million clotheslines in a row to try and knock Walter off his feet. Walter doesn't go down, turns around with another big chop which sends Ciampa to the canvas, but he fires up and hits a final big clothesline, and that finally does knock the champion down. He then follows up with a big air raid crash, but Walter kicks out. So he hits his finisher, the fairy tale ending, and again Walter kicks out. Walter starts to fight back and take control of the game, but out of nowhere, Ciampa snatches a right hand and grabs the Fujiwara armbar and bends the fingers on top of it, but Walter manages to get the ropes. They head up top. Walter goes for his big top rope powerbomb, but Ciampa astonishingly reverses into an outrageous avalanche air raid crash. It would be worthy of finishing any match, but of course, Walter kicks out. The champion then starts going for Ciampa's surgically repaired neck and follows up with a couple of massive powerbombs, but now Ciampa kicks out. Of course, it's Ciampa. He's also very resilient. So Walter nails a big sleeper suplex and another big chop to the chest, and that, quite surprisingly in my opinion, is the end of the match. Walter pinning Ciampa off, a barrage of punishment, but the final move was a chop. Very strange stuff there. It was a fantastic match. I really enjoyed it, but I do have mixed feelings about it ending on a chop. In fairness though, if any wrestler is going to end the match with a chop and have it be believable, then it's probably going to be Walter. Next up, we get the 3-way tag team match for the vacant NXT tag team titles. MSK taking on the Grizzled Young Veterans and Legado del Fantasma. All 3 teams get little bursts of offense to start, really showing what they can do, and you get the sense that this probably isn't going to be a slow-paced one. We also get a lot of stereo dives to the outside at one point, with Legado del Fantasma getting the last word, and at certain points in this match, they really seem like the strongest and most dangerous team. They isolate Nash Carter of MSK at one point and really beat him down with double coast-to-coast drop kicks and that sort of thing, but Zach Gibson breaks up their pinfall attempt and then has to beg off because, it's 2-on-1 and they just beat him down for his troubles. James Drake also tries to get involved, sneaking into the ring and trying to get a quick roll-up on one of Legado, but they beat him down as well. But before they can do too much damage, here comes Wes Lee off a hot tag, and he runs wild on absolutely everyone. Lee is on such a roll, but it's eventually stopped because Zach Gibson grabs his hand, traps it in the top turnbuckle pad, and James Drake drop kicks it while it's still stuck there. Very unique spot. That was really cool to see. Gibson then gets Wes Lee locked into the Shankly gate, and he's about to tap, but Nash Carter slides into the ring and catches his hand on the way down, and they hold on long enough for Legado del Fantasma to get back in the ring and take control of everybody again. But it does not last long because the Grizzled Young Vets hit their Doomsday device off the stage to take out Joaquin Wilde, while on the other side of the ring, MSK hit a huge torture rack double stomp combo thing off the apron, and that takes out Mendoza, and it looks like we're down to a rematch of the Dusty Classic final. Both the Grizzled Young Vets and MSK have a big brawl in the middle of the ring. Carter gets isolated, but he nails a big double springboard cutter. Wes Lee gets back in, and they hit their double team finisher on Zach Gibson, I believe, to pick up the win and collect those tag team titles. When are the Grizzled Young Vets going to catch a break, everyone? But still, this was a great match, and MSK are worthy winners, as much as I would have liked to have seen the Grizzled Young Veterans be given that chance. And finally, we get the main event of the night. Io Shirai defending the NXT Women's Championship against Raquel González. We see that Stephanie McMahon is in the front row for this match, and she is joined by the new NXT signing, Shirai, also known as Ciampa on the Japanese women's wrestling scene. She signed with NXT in 2020, but obviously the pandemic got in the way, so it's good to see her finally arrive. Anyway, now on to the match itself, and both Io and Raquel brawl at the bell. Io takes Raquel to the outside and goes for her moonsault, but Dakota Kai is up on the apron to stop that in its tracks. So the referee ejects Dakota, and she's gone pretty early on. Raquel González is all on her own. In the opening stages, commentary talk up how dominant Raquel has been in the match so far, but it's actually been pretty even up until this point. And then once they talk about how dominant she's been, she then starts to dominate the match and gets a series of near falls on Io and gets more and more frustrated that she can't put the champion away. Shirai fights back with a 619, a springboard dropkick and a code red, but Raquel kicks out, so the champion goes up for her moonsault, but González grabs her and goes for the one-armed powerbomb, but then Io slides out of that and locks in a crossface. Raquel crawls and makes the ropes and bails to the ramp, so Io just hits her moonsault to the outside and lays out Raquel, and then we get the spot of the night, with Shirai disappearing backstage and reappearing on top of the set, leaping off with a huge splash. She takes González back in the ring and hits another moonsault for good measure, but Raquel kicks out and everybody is stunned, not least the defending champion. Raquel rolls to the outside to recover, but Io goes straight after her and eats the big one-armed powerbomb. Raquel gets Io back in the ring, talks a bit of trash, and Io responds with a big Jushin Thunder Liger style Shote palm strike. But this is not the sign of a resurgence for the champion, because Raquel answers back with a huge clothesline, a one-armed powerbomb, and that's it. Raquel González is the new NXT Women's Champion. And that is how we end the show, with Raquel celebrating on the ramp as steam goes off and sparks and everything. It seems to be the start of a new era for the NXT Women's division. And that caps off what I feel is a very strong night one of NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. There's not really a weak match on this card. It was really solid all the way through. But what did you think of the show? Leave your opinions in that comment section down below, and join me tomorrow when we recap NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver Part 2. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.